You know what I learned the hard way? We spend too much of our life apologizing for becoming who we were always meant to be. Somewhere along the way, we picked up this habit of explaining ourselves over and over, like we owe everybody an itemized receipt of our growth. We get this new sense of strength, this new awareness of what we deserve. But before we take a step forward, we feel the need to stop and say, I'm sorry, it's just that I've changed. We soften our tone, we over-explain our boundaries, we downplay our progress so the people who once knew us don't feel uncomfortable. But here's the thing, if you keep apologizing for your growth, you give people permission to shrink you back into the version of yourself they're most comfortable with. I remember seasons in my life when I could feel the stretch happening inside me. My thoughts were different. My desires were different. My capacity was different. I wasn't chasing the same things. I wasn't tolerating the same conversations. And I sure wasn't running in the same circles. But every time someone pointed out the difference, I'd scramble to explain it. Oh, I'm just going through a phase. I've been busy. It's nothing really. And every time I did that, I watered down the truth that I wasn't in a phase. I was in a transformation. And transformation doesn't need permission. You've got to stop handing out disclaimers about who you're becoming. Your growth is not a group decision. When God starts working on you, when he starts peeling away the layers of fear and insecurity, when he starts exposing the truth about your worth, you're not meant to stop mid-process and gather opinions. You are not here to get everyone's agreement before you move forward. Some of them are only comfortable with the version of you who tolerated too much, settled too often, and questioned herself every time she had a dream. And if you keep apologizing, you keep giving them access to her. There's something powerful that happens when you stop explaining and just start living the change. When your actions speak for themselves, when your boundaries are clear without an essay, when your choices say, I respect myself now, without you ever saying a word, that's when people have no choice but to adjust how they see you. And let me warn you, some won't like it. Some will try to bait you into defending yourself, into softening your stance, into making them feel safe again in the presence of your growth. Don't take the bait. Sometimes silence is the loudest. No, you can give. Not the silence that hides, but the silence that stands. The silence that says, I've said enough. You've seen enough. I'm not explaining this anymore. That kind of silence shifts the atmosphere. It makes people think twice before they approach you with the same old expectations. It teaches them that the door to the old you is closed and locked, and no amount of knocking will open it again. And yes, it will be uncomfortable at first. You will feel that tug to go back and smooth things over to make sure they know you're still the same person deep down, but you're not. You've grown. You've seen too much. You've healed too much. You've fought too hard to go back to being palatable just to keep the peace. Growth has changed your appetite. You can't go back to chewing on what used to feed you when you've tasted something greater. When you stop apologizing, you reclaim your authority over your own life. You start walking differently, talking differently, choosing differently. And those who are meant to walk with you will notice the change and respect it. They may not understand it right away, but they will honor it because they see it's real. And those who aren't meant to walk with you will either fade away or try to pull you back. That's when you'll know your silence was the right choice. Because if someone only valued you when you were easy to control, they were never valuing the real you. You've been explaining long enough. You've been handing out footnotes and disclaimers for far too long. It's time to live without the constant need to defend your evolution. Because the truth is, you don't owe anyone a reason for becoming who you were born to be. And the moment you stop apologizing, they'll never see you the same again. There comes a moment in life when words just don't do it anymore. You've tried explaining yourself. You've tried telling people about your vision, your goals, your dreams, and somehow, no matter how much you talk, They still don't believe you. And honestly, that's because words are easy. Anybody can talk about what they're going to do. Anybody can post about change, declare a new season, or make promises about turning over a new leaf. But what cuts through the noise, what makes people stop in their tracks, is when your life starts speaking louder than your mouth ever could. When your actions are in alignment with the person you're becoming. You don't have to convince anybody. You don't have to send out memos about your new boundaries or write a long speech about your new season. People will see it. They'll see it in the way you move, the way you show up, the way you protect your peace, the way you choose differently. And that unspoken testimony will carry more weight than anything you could ever try to explain. I used to think that if I just told people my plan, they would understand and support it. But what I learned is that vision is often invisible to those who aren't ready to see it. Some people can only believe change when they see the fruit of it. And honestly, that's okay. You don't have to fight them to believe in you. You don't have to drag them into your process. You just have to keep moving in the direction of what's true for you. Because one day they won't be able to ignore it. There's something sacred about letting your life speak for itself. When you set a boundary, not because you made a big announcement, but because you simply don't show up in places that drain you anymore, that's a statement. When you start saying no without a whole paragraph explaining why, that's a statement. When you stop engaging in drama, stop feeding into negativity, stop entertaining what used to distract you, that's a statement. And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to raise your voice to make it. See, people are used to us telegraphing every move. We tell them when we're about to start the diet, when we're going to write the book, when we're thinking about moving, when we're considering cutting someone off. And because they know ahead of time, they have room to question it, to poke holes in it, to talk you out of it before you even start. But when you let your actions speak, they don't have that luxury. They just wake up one day and realize, she's different now. And that realization hits harder than any speech ever could. It's not about proving anybody wrong. It's about proving yourself right. When you start living in alignment, there's a peace that settles over you because you're no longer living to be understood. You're living to be obedient to the call inside you. And that obedience shows. It shows in the discipline you carry. It shows in the consistency of your choices. It shows in the way you don't flinch when someone tries to test you with the old temptations. And let me tell you, those actions will speak long after you've left the room. People will start adjusting how they talk to you, how they treat you, how they approach you, not because you demanded it, but because your life demanded it. When they see you protecting your energy, they realize they can't bring the same chaos to your door. When they see you committed to your purpose, they realize they can't waste your time. When they see you handling yourself with grace and strength, they realize they have to step up their game just to be in your presence. The shift doesn't happen when you tell them who you are becoming. The shift happens when you start living it without asking for validation. And here's the thing, those who really see you, who really care for you, will celebrate it. They may not even need an explanation. They'll just say, I see you, keep going. But those who feel threatened by your growth will try to make you feel guilty for it. Don't. Because your actions are not just for them. They're for you, for the generations after you, for the version of yourself who prayed for this level of courage. When your life speaks, you don't have to shout. You don't have to keep repeating yourself. You just walk it out step by step, choice by choice, until the evidence is undeniable. And the truth is, when your actions start talking like that, they'll never see you the same again. People will hold on to the version of you they first met like it's a photograph that never changes. They'll frame it in their mind and keep it there, even when life has taken you through storms, seasons, and miracles that have reshaped every corner of who you are. They'll cling to the memory of the person who tolerated certain things, who played small, who was unsure of herself, who laughed at jokes that weren't funny just to keep the peace. And the truth is, for some people, that's the only you they're comfortable with. But there comes a time when you have to break that picture, not out of bitterness, not out of pride, but out of obedience to the truth of who you've become. If you don't, you'll keep trying to squeeze yourself into a frame you've outgrown. And the more you shrink yourself to fit, the more you suffocate the very parts of you that were meant to thrive. I've learned that breaking people's familiar picture of you doesn't always happen in one big moment. Sometimes it's a series of quiet decisions. You stop answering the phone for certain conversations. You start protecting your mornings. You say no to events you used to say yes to. You choose the harder right over the easier wrong. And at first, they'll be confused. They'll call you different, maybe even difficult. They'll ask what happened to you, hoping you'll step back into the comfort of the old role they had for you. But you can't, because you know too much now. You've seen too much now. You've tasted a freedom you can't untaste. The hardest part is realizing that some people will never update the version of you they carry in their mind. You could be standing right in front of them, full of wisdom, strength, and purpose, and they'll still be talking to the person you were 5 years ago. And if you're not careful, you'll start responding like her. That's why you have to set the tone. Not by forcing them to understand, but by living so fully in your present that it becomes impossible for them to pretend they don't see the change. This is where boundaries become your paintbrush. Every time you say no, every time you choose differently, every time you refuse to explain yourself, you're repainting the picture they had of you. And eventually the old image starts to fade. They might not like it, but they'll have to face it. I remember walking into rooms where people still expected me to be the one who would sit quietly in the corner, smile politely, and let things slide. And I could feel the old version of me tugging at my sleeve, whispering, "It's easier if you just go along." But easy doesn't grow you. Easy doesn't honor the work God has done in you. So I stopped going along. I started speaking up, even if my voice shook. I started walking out when the atmosphere didn't honor my peace. And little by little, people began to realize that the person they were used to no longer existed. And let me tell you, once you break that familiar picture, everything shifts. Some people will respect you more. They'll see that you've grown, and it will inspire them to grow too. Others will distance themselves because your transformation challenges them to look at their own stagnation. And that's okay. You can't live your life trying to keep everyone comfortable. Comfort keeps people the same. Growth forces people to see differently. This process isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about refusing to live in a version of yourself that no longer fits. It's about walking in your new skin with the same confidence you used to reserve for your old habits. And it's about understanding that the ones who are meant to be in your life will adjust to the updated picture, not because you demanded it, but because the evidence of your growth is undeniable. Some will look at you with new eyes. Others will keep glancing back at the frame they built in their mind. But your job isn't to make them see you differently. It's to make sure you don't see yourself through their outdated lens. Because the moment you step fully into who you are now, the moment you live in a way that no longer fits their old picture, they'll never see you the same again. There's something dangerous about revisiting places you've outgrown. Not just physical places, but mindsets, patterns, and relationships that belong to an old version of you. The temptation is always there because the old room is familiar. You know the faces. You know the conversations. You know exactly how to act in order to fit in. And sometimes that familiarity can feel comforting, especially when the new chapter you're stepping into is stretching you in ways you've never been stretched before. But here's the truth. Every time you go back to the old room, you risk shrinking back into the person you fought so hard to leave behind. The old room doesn't require growth. It doesn't demand discipline. It doesn't challenge you to be better. In fact, it's built to keep you exactly the same. That's why it feels so easy to slip back into it. You can walk through those doors and immediately remember how to play the role you used to play, laughing at the same tired jokes, engaging in the same draining habits, lowering your standards just to make others feel comfortable. But ease is not the same thing as peace. Ease is temporary comfort, but peace is the reward of staying in alignment with where you're called to be. When you step into your new chapter, you've got to make a decision that going back is no longer an option. You can love people, pray for them, wish them well, but you cannot live in a space that suffocates your growth just because it's familiar. The problem is the old room will always welcome you back. It will call you when you're lonely. It will remind you of the good times you had there. It will whisper in your ear that you're too much for the new space you're in and just right for the old one. And if you're not careful, you'll start believing it. I've been there, standing in the doorway between who I was and who I was becoming. And I'll be honest, sometimes it felt easier to turn around and walk back into what I knew in that old room. I didn't have to explain myself. I didn't have to push through discomfort. I didn't have to face the uncertainty of the unknown. But every time I went back, I left a little more of myself behind. Every time I lowered my standards to fit in there, it cost me a piece of the woman I was becoming. And eventually I had to make a decision that I wasn't willing to keep paying that price. You've got to understand, your new chapter is sacred. The lessons you've learned, the boundaries you've built, the healing you've fought for, they are treasures. And when you go back to the old room, you risk dropping those treasures just to carry the weight of your past again. You risk undoing the progress you've made just to make other people feel like nothing's changed. But something has changed. You've changed. And the only way to honor that is to keep moving forward. Even if forward feels lonely for a season, there will be moments when you miss the old you because the old you didn't know certain kinds of pain. She didn't know the weight of certain responsibilities. She wasn't stretched in ways that make your muscles ache in the spirit, but she also didn't know the strength you have now. She didn't know the freedom you've tasted. She didn't know what it felt like to walk into a space that matched her worth. And that's why you can't go back, because she's not there anymore, and neither are you. The people in the old room may never understand why you don't come around like you used to. They might call you distant, arrogant, or changed. But that's fine. You don't have to explain your absence to people who didn't notice your pain when you were present. Your job isn't to convince them that your new chapter is better. It's to live in it so fully that going back becomes unimaginable. Forward is harder, but it's worth it. Forward demands that you trust the unknown more than you trust the comfort of the familiar. Forward requires you to believe that what's ahead of you is greater than what's behind you. And when you make that choice, when you refuse to step back into the old room just because it's easier, they'll never see you the same again. Growth sounds beautiful until you realize it's going to make some people uncomfortable, and sometimes that includes you. We love the idea of change when it's happening on our terms, when it feels good, when it brings applause. But real transformation, the kind that shifts your mindset, your habits, and your boundaries, that kind is rarely comfortable. It disrupts the rhythm you've always known. It changes how people respond to you. It forces you to stand in places where you once would have bowed. And when you do that, don't be surprised when the air gets a little tense. There's something about stepping into your true self that rattles people who benefited from the version of you that didn't know her worth. They're not used to you saying no without guilt. They're not used to you walking away from chaos without explaining yourself. They're not used to you choosing peace over their approval. And when you start doing that, you're going to feel the pushback. They'll question you. They'll test you. They'll throw little comments at you to see if they can still pull you back into the box you used to live in. That's where the art of discomfort comes in. You have to get comfortable with the fact that your growth is not going to be universally celebrated. You have to be okay with the tension your transformation creates. Because if you're always trying to make sure everyone feels at ease around you, you'll eventually betray yourself just to keep the room calm. And that's not real growth. That's performance. Discomfort is the birthplace of strength. Think about it. When you go to the gym, the weight you lift is supposed to be heavy. If it's easy, you're not building anything. The same is true in life. If every choice you make for your future feels smooth and effortless, it's probably because you're not stretching yourself far enough. Growth will pull you out of the circles where you were the safest, but also the smallest. It will challenge you to speak up when you'd rather stay quiet. It will push you to take risks that make your stomach knot up. And if you can learn to sit in that discomfort without running back to the old way of living, you'll unlock a level of power you didn't know you had. But here's the catch. Discomfort doesn't just test you. It tests the people around you. Your silence in certain conversations will make them uneasy. Your boundaries will frustrate them. Your confidence will make them question their own. And you have to be willing to let them sit in that. You're not here to rescue people from the feelings your growth stirs up in them. If seeing you walk in your worth makes someone squirm, that's between them and the mirror. It's tempting to try to smooth it over, to say, I'm still the same person, just to calm the tension. But you're not the same person. You've evolved. And the ones who truly love you will adjust to that. The ones who don't will try to convince you that your growth is arrogance or selfishness or even betrayal. That's when you have to remember why you started this journey in the first place. You didn't come this far to be understood. You came this far to be whole. And wholeness is not comfortable work. It will cost you certain relationships. It will require you to have hard conversations. It will make you walk into rooms where you feel like you don't belong yet, but you're there to grow into belonging. It will stretch your faith, your patience, and your discipline. But that's the point. Nothing extraordinary is birthed in comfort zones. If you can learn to stay put when the discomfort rises, if you can breathe through the moments when your voice shakes, when the silence feels heavy, when the stares feel sharp, you'll realize that discomfort was never there to destroy you. It was there to strip away what no longer served you and to build the kind of resilience that makes you unshakable. And once you master that, once you stop running from the awkward, the tense, the stretching moments, you'll find yourself walking with a strength that changes how people see you forever. And the moment you do, they'll never see you the same again. The moment people notice you've shifted, they will test you. Not always out of malice, sometimes just out of habit. They'll push a little here, tug a little there, just to see if the new you is real or if it's just a temporary phase you're going through. They'll drop comments they know used to trigger you. They'll bring up the past in casual conversation to see if you'll step back into that old role. They'll extend invitations to places they know no longer align with you, just to check if your boundaries were only for a season. And this is where protecting your new energy becomes more than just a nice idea. It becomes a necessity. Your growth is not just about what you've stepped into. It's about what you refuse to return to. You didn't fight your way through healing, self-discovery, and discipline just to hand over the keys to anyone who asks. Every boundary you've set, every mindset you've built, every pattern you've broken, those are the walls of the home you've built within yourself. And you have to guard that home, because if you don't, people will walk right in and rearrange the furniture until it looks like the old place you left behind. Protecting your new energy means you stop giving unlimited access to everyone who once had it. Just because someone knew you before doesn't mean they get the same proximity now. Some people can only visit you from a distance, not because you're bitter, but because you're wise. You've learned that proximity is power, and you can't afford to hand that power to anyone who misuses it. Here's the thing. When you start protecting your energy, not everyone will understand. Some will take it personally. They'll say you've changed. You've become distant, or you think you're too good now, but that's okay. Let them talk, because protecting your energy isn't about controlling how they see you. It's about controlling what you allow into your space. The truth is, some people are not intentionally harmful, but they carry chaos with them. And if you let them in without boundaries, that chaos will spill over into your peace. You have to learn how to say no without apology, how to exit without explanation, how to keep your distance without guilt. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. Clarity is kindness, both to yourself and to them. When you know who you are and where you're going, you stop letting anyone's opinion or presence pull you off course. And it's not just people you have to protect your energy from. It's environments, habits, and even your own old patterns. Sometimes the greatest threat to your new energy is you slipping back into old ways of thinking. That's why you have to be intentional every single day. You have to check your thoughts, your words, your routines. Ask yourself, does this align with who I'm becoming? Or does it pull me back into who I used to be? That level of self-awareness is how you keep the transformation intact. And let's be honest, this level of protection isn't always easy. Sometimes you'll feel isolated. Sometimes you'll want to let people back in just because you miss them or because you don't want to deal with their disappointment. But you have to remind yourself that every time you lower your guard for the wrong reason, it costs you. And the cost is always higher than the momentary comfort of saying yes. Protecting your new energy means understanding that peace is a non-negotiable. Your time, your space, your mental clarity, they are treasures, and treasures must be guarded. You're not being harsh. You're being a good steward of what you've worked so hard to build. The ones who truly value you will respect your boundaries. The ones who don't will reveal themselves. And that's a blessing, because clarity about who belongs in your life is a gift. When you refuse to compromise on the standard for your peace, something powerful happens. You start attracting people and opportunities that match your new frequency. You start living in a way that feels lighter, freer, more purposeful. You stop running on fumes and start living on overflow. And that, more than anything, is the reward of protecting your new energy.